In this class, we're going to continue our study of the second chapter in Porphyry's introduction. This is our third video in chapter 2. So chapter 2 is a very important chapter. It's packed with information, and we have to just take our time and work through it. So this is our third video. I'm not going to promise that we're going to finish chapter 2 in this lesson, but we're going to go line by line, make sure we understand everything, and hopefully make some good progress. But I don't think we're going to get through it all in this class. So I think we'll have this class and one more class for chapter 2. But let's get ready. In our notes, let's prepare our paper, write your name and date. The name of this course is Classical Reasoning 1. Classical Reasoning 1. And we're in Lesson 2 in Porphyry's introduction. So I'll say we're in Porphyry Chapter 2. And this is Part 3. This is our third class working through Porphyry's introduction. Okay, so in this chapter so far, what we've studied is, what we've worked to study is what genus and species are. And we looked at the beginning of the book. I know I've reviewed this already, so this is getting old now, and that's a good thing. But we looked at what genus and species are in philosophy, because the words are used in a number of different ways, and it's very easy to learn this by example. We can learn by just considering animal, and then we know animal divides into two groups, and these two groups under animal, what are these called? What are the groups under a genus called? No, they're called species. You didn't listen to my question. Animal is a genus. Animal is a genus. The classes into which a genus divides are called species. These species would be man and beast in this example here. Man would not divide into more species. Man would simply divide into individual men. These are called individuals. This is species, this is genus. But we learned that animal belongs to a higher class up here. We'll make a higher class up there. We can say living things. So there's a class above animal, and that divides into animal and plant, we'll say. And so with reference, and follow me here, this is difficult stuff, but you can understand it. You just have to pay attention, and as we go over it again and again, it'll get clearer each time. You can rewatch these videos and think about it more. With reference to man and beast, animal is a genus. But with reference to living things, animal is a species. So animal can be both genus and species. It's genus to the species below it, and it's a species of the genus above it. Okay? So animal can be genus and species. With reference to animal, living things is genus. Okay? With reference to living things, plant is species. It is a species or a class or division of living things. And then plant breaks down into its own species, and it goes on until we get to an actual individual plant in your hand or in the garden, right? So if I took an actual plant like a flower off the table and we held an actual individual plant, that would be at the bottom of this. That individual plant. Right? And then it would work all the way up, and it would go up and up and up and up until we finally got to some highest genus above which there's no other genus. Okay? And we'd have to ask, what would that be? What would the highest genus be? Okay? Now, a wise man who studies philosophy will look at the world and all of the ideas that exist, and he'll have this organized system in his head. Can you imagine living and having everything that you see, everything you think about classified? That'd be pretty useful, wouldn't it? You know, that's wisdom, right? The science is systematic knowledge. Knowledge properly classified. That's what we said science is. This is where science comes from, and what we see when we study reasoning, we see Aristotle actually working in his generation to be the person who establishes that science. That's what's so amazing about Aristotle. Aristotle actually established the science in reasoning, in moral philosophy, in natural philosophy. He's the one who actually discovered and explained all of this order. Order in ideas, in rational philosophy, order of the will and emotions and actions in moral philosophy, and order in nature in natural philosophy. Aristotle, in one generation, established those sciences. It's just amazing how somebody like him could do that. But you can see how this orders our thoughts, and that's the point of reasoning, to order our thoughts. Okay? So we went through all that, and we're a little ways along in this second chapter, and we're starting now on page, what did we say, it was 16 in the document. But if you're looking at a copy of Porphyry, Porphyry's introduction, the one we use in class, if you look up to the top right corner, you'll see actually on the page in the book, it's page 19. In our document, in our PDF document that we study, it's page 16. So let's get to that page, and if you look down to the first full paragraph, you'll see it starts with, again after another manner. Can you find that on your page? Again after another manner. That's where we're going to begin and pick up this lesson. We've already read this. We read this at the end of our last class. We're going to pick up here just to kind of refresh our minds as to where we left off, and then get into the next section of this reading. So read along with me. Porphyry writes, again, after another manner, genus is denominated that to which species is subjected, being thus called according to the similitude of these. A genus of this kind is a certain principle, or starting point, a source. A genus is a certain principle of all of the things which are under it, and it appears to comprehend or contain all of the multitude which is under it. Since therefore genus is denominated in a threefold manner, the third manner is that which is considered by philosophers, which also describing they explain when they say that genus is that which is predicated of many things, differing in species, in answer to the question, what a thing is. As for instance, animal. And we saw in our last class that that's the definition of genus. For of things which are predicated, some are predicated of one thing only, as individuals. As for instance, Socrates, and this individual man, and that individual thing. But others are predicated of many things, such as genera, species, differences, peculiarities, and accidents, the 5 predicables, which are predicated in common and are not peculiar to any individual thing. But genus is indeed such as animal. Now here what we have are examples of each of the 5 predicables, so this is going to be helpful. he gives us an example of each of the 5 predicables. We have genus, difference, species, peculiarity, and accident. We haven't studied all these yet. We've learned about genus and a little bit about species, but we haven't studied the others. But what we have right here is Porphyry gives us an example of each of these predicables, which is helpful. So let's look at the bottom of that page, the very last line, and onto the top of the next page. He says genus is such as animal. So an example of genus would be animal. Then on to the next page, he says species. An example of species would be man. And just looking at this simple little diagram I made on the board, we can see what he means. Man is a species, animal is a genus. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry, I wrote it in the wrong place. Man is species. Difference is such as rational. So an example of difference would be rational. And I'll show you what this means in a minute. Peculiarity would be risible. And lastly, accident, we'll just use one of them, white. Okay? Let's look at what this means real quick. So here's the first time we get to see what each of these predicables are. An example of genus would be animal. An example of difference would be rational. An example of species would be man. An example of peculiarity would be risible, which means able to laugh. And an example of accident would be the color white. So now, what do these mean? We're going to study this, obviously, but let me just give you a quick peek at what these things mean. If we were to take an individual man, and we'll say an individual man, we'll say Thomas Jefferson, okay? I'll just pick a random individual. Remember, I wrote this in our first lessons. I said Thomas Jefferson is blank, 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 blank. If we were to predicate or assert 5 different things about Thomas Jefferson, we can use each of these predicables. We could list hundreds of things about Thomas Jefferson, but all of those things would belong to one of 5 classes. There's only 5 classes of things that we can say about somebody. The first thing we can do is identify his genus. And the genus of Thomas Jefferson would be Thomas Jefferson is animal. Or you could say is an animal. That would be his genus. You could say Thomas Jefferson is a man. And that would identify or name his species. You could say that Thomas Jefferson is a rational animal. You could say he's rational. And that's the difference. And I'll show you what difference means. Okay, sorry if it's sloppy. I'm just trying to get through this. What is difference? Well, let's take a look at this diagram up here. We have animal. So imagine we have in your mind, remember these, we're talking about ideas and words, not actual living animals. Imagine in your mind you have this group of ideas in your mind that you call animal, right? And everything associated with that idea you call animal. So all of those ideas are basically in this container in your mind. Do you understand that? Can you think about that? In your mind, all animals are in this one file folder of your brain, okay? And if I was to ask you, this group of ideas called animal, how can we divide this group? What is the most significant difference between all the animals in your mind? What's the difference that separates them all in the most essential way? And the answer is rational. Some of these animals are rational, and some of these animals are not rational. That's the characteristic. Pay attention to me. Rational is the characteristic that divides all animals into two species. Okay? And so rational, I'm going to write it right here. Rational and irrational. I want you to see this real quick. Look at me here. I wrote rational right here because rational is the quality that actually divides this class of things, this genus, into its species. You see that? So the difference, what's different about you with respect to being an animal is that you are rational. So if you ask me, what can you tell me about Thomas Jefferson? I could say, well, Thomas Jefferson is rational. That is actually the difference that makes him a man and separates him from all other animals. So if you say Thomas Jefferson is rational, think about it. If I say Thomas Jefferson is intelligent, right? I don't even want to say that because that might be confusing. Thomas Jefferson is friendly, okay? Let's say I said that Thomas Jefferson is friendly. Friendly describes Thomas Jefferson, right? But is friendly what separates the animals? Do we separate the animals into two species? These are the friendly animals, and these are the not friendly animals. That's the real essential difference between animals? No. So friendly is not a difference. Rational is a special characteristic. Okay? And there's only one that actually separates the members of a genus into species. Rational is the difference of man. So I want you to understand what difference means. A difference is the quality that divides a genus into its species. And there's only one difference. There's lots of ways we could divide animals into groups. But there's only one way that we can divide animals into groups that actually identifies the real essence of those animals. And that's difference. And I'd like to show you something pretty cool that you can do with a difference. The definition of anything, to give a definition of anything, there's a formula for making a definition. The definition of anything is given by stating its genus followed by its difference. If you state the genus of a thing and its difference, that's its definition. Okay? So if I were to say to you, define beast. Define beast. When you say the word beast, follow me. This isn't hard. Come on, don't get into this lazy spirit. If I were to say define a beast, this is the formula for a definition. All you have to do is state the genus of beast and then state the difference. Okay? So what is a beast? What's the definition of a beast? It's an animal. That's the genus. It's an animal that is irrational. That's the definition. The real philosophical definition of a beast. All you have to do is state the genus and the difference of a thing, and that's its definition. What's an animal? Or what's a man? What's a man? What's the definition of a man? Is a rational animal. That's the definition of a man. That's not just your definition, right? You don't say, well, I would define. No. None of that modern nonsense. A thing has a real, essential definition. The definition is actually the statement of the essence of a thing. The essence is what a thing is, what it really is. Okay? So the definition of man would be, man is a rational animal. The definition of a beast would be, a beast is an irrational animal. That's the real definition of man and beast. If we went up to a higher order, if we went up to living things, and we look at the species, and we see that the species are plant and animal. What do you think, and come on, I want you to think about this with me. If you look at living things and it divides into the species plant and animal, what is the difference, what is the quality that divides living things into these two species? What do you think it is? What? Locomotion, right? Let's just say that, right? So animal is a living thing that can change place of itself. And a plant does not have locomotion. So let's just say that the difference of living things was locomotion, right? They're living, they move, they have motion, but the motion is of two different kinds. The motion of animals is locomotion. The movement of plants is simply growth and decay. Okay? So what would the definition then of animal be? What would the definition of animal be? Give the genus and difference. An animal is a living thing that has locomotion, that can change place. Okay? And a plant, you could define it negatively as a living thing that does not have locomotion, that cannot change place. What I want you to understand, that's what a definition really is in philosophy, okay? So the reason why difference, this one here, difference, the reason why that's so important is because that's actually how we form definitions of things. Stating the genus and the difference of a thing is what actually describes the essence of anything, okay? So we're told rational is a difference. Now, if I was to say something else about Thomas Jefferson, I could say that Thomas Jefferson is risible. And I don't, we use this, it's just a goofy word that we happen to be using in our book. It just means able to laugh. Now, here's what's interesting. If we were to look at all of these animals, and we were to take this quality, the ability to laugh, okay? That quality, ability to laugh, would that produce these species? Yes, it would, because only man can laugh. Only man is rational, but it's also true that only man can laugh. So now we have this interesting situation where we have a characteristic that could divide this genus into its species. You see that? We have another characteristic that could divide this genus into its species, but it's not. It's not the quality that does so. It's not. It's not the difference, because here's what makes them unlike each other. Difference identifies the essence of the species. You see that? Rational identifies the essence of what a man is. He's a rational animal. Right? Do you understand that? Keep working with me. Study is work. This characteristic rational divides animal into its two species. But so does risible. So does the ability to laugh. It divides animal into these same two species. But what's the difference? Rational is the essence of man. Do you think the ability to laugh is what defines man? If I said man is an animal that's able to laugh, would that really define the essence of man? He's a laughing animal? No. Okay? So if there is a quality, if there's a quality of man that's true only of man, but it's not the difference, then it's a peculiarity. It's peculiar to man. It's a proper attribute. It's an attribute that applies only to man. Risible. It's like a difference because it divides the genus into its species, but it's not actually the characteristic that divides the genus. It just is another attribute that happens to belong only to one of the two species. And then lastly, accident is easy to understand. We could say Thomas Jefferson is white, and that's true. He's a white man. Thomas Jefferson is white, and this is an accident. An accident can be true of many things. Because think about it. Can a man be white? Yes, right? Can a beast be white? Yes. So an accident is an attribute that can actually be true of both species. You see that? It's true that Thomas Jefferson is white, but it's also true that a seagull is white, right? A cat can be white. So that's not something peculiar to man. So do you start to get an idea of what these 5 things are? I mean, I know this is difficult. Most schools wouldn't even try to teach you this stuff, but I think you can understand it if you work and we just study and study and study. You can learn and understand these things. And even if you get a little bit of it figured out, even if you understand a little bit of it, it's better than nothing. And when you're 25 years old, if you decide you want to study philosophy, you know where to go to look. You go read Porphyry, right? You go study Aristotle. That's why I think it's important. Even if you don't master it when you're young, at least you know where it is. At least you know that it exists. If you meet a kid at the gym or at church and you ask him, have you ever heard of Porphyry? Never heard of him. Might have never heard of Aristotle. Okay? At least you're aware of the sources and you know what you need to know. That's what's important. So the 5 predicables are 5 different kinds of things that we can say about a subject. And each of these things that we say about the subject has a different relationship to the subject and to its species and to its genus and to other things. Okay? Now I can say many different accidents about a subject. Thomas Jefferson is American. Thomas Jefferson is white. Thomas Jefferson is a Virginian. Thomas Jefferson is a Christian. Thomas Jefferson is, and I can go on and on and on and on with a million attributes. Thomas Jefferson is a blue-eyed man. Thomas Jefferson is a, right? I can go on and on with accidents. But peculiarities are rare. Differences are rare. Species can only be one, and genus can be a few if we go up through the order. So that may be a lot to take in, but that's important. And I just want you to see, at that point in the book, Porphyry gives us an example of each, and just seeing an example of each is very helpful at this point, because up to this point, you have no idea what he's talking about. Right? Peculiarity, difference, genus, species, what in the world is he talking about? Once we get a set of examples, and we think about those examples, and we ask, what are these examples really showing us? If you're willing to do the work to meditate on it and think, what do these examples actually show me? At this point in our study, you'll start to have a good sense of what we're talking about here. So you can say thousands of different things about a subject, and if you just wrote and wrote and wrote thousands of sentences, you took one subject like a tree, and you just wrote, a tree is blank, a tree is blank, a tree is blank, and you just went on and on and on, writing every possible attribute you could think of a tree. All of those things you wrote would divide into these 5 classes. You might write 500 sentences, and every single one of your predicates is just an accident. It just describes some quality of a tree that could be true of anything else. But one of those sentences might be the difference. One of those predicates might name the genus. One of those sentences might name the species. One of those sentences might name a peculiarity. There's only 5 kinds of predicates that you could think of, but you might think of 500 different predicates, and they could be sorted into these classes, okay? So, how are we with time? Where are we at? 31, good. So let's keep reading here. We pick up with the sentence, genera, therefore. You see that sentence? Genera, therefore. Genera, therefore, differ from things which are predicated of one thing only in this. They are predicated of many things. Pretty simple. So I'm going to erase the board, and we're going to get started with the next section. Our next discussion here in this chapter in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, we've never had students study this course as young as some of you are studying it. So it's exciting to see what the future holds. Now, what we want to start doing in this book is comparing and contrasting, just like we do in other subjects. The way that we're going to understand what these things are is we're going to compare and contrast them. And the first comparison and contrast we have is that individual is a predicate, something predicated of only one thing. Predicated of one thing. Okay, we'll put that in one class. Genus, difference, species, peculiarity, and accident are different from individual because all of them are predicated of more than one thing, or many things. Let me write many things. So what does individual have in common with all of these? It's a predicate, right? But they all differ from individual in that individual is predicated of only one thing. Genus is predicated of many things. Species is predicated of many things. Difference is predicated of many things. Peculiarity, accident, predicated of many things. That's what makes them all different from individual. But now what we're going to start doing is this. How does genus compare with species and with difference and with peculiarity and with accident? How do they compare and contrast? What do they have in common? How are they different? So this is what we're going to do pretty much for the rest of this book, is compare and contrast these 5 predicables. Okay? And we start right in that sentence that I just read. Genera, follow me up here. I'm going to read it, but I want you to see what I'm reading, because I'm going to show you. Ready? Genera, genus, genera is plural of genus. Genera differ from things which are predicated of only one thing, in that they are predicated of many things. That's the difference between genera and individuals. But how is genus different from species? This is what he says next. But genera differ from those things which are predicated of many things, all of these. How is genus different from all these? In the first place, from species, because those species are predicated of many things. So I can say genus is predicated of many things, species is predicated of many things. That's something they have in common. So genus and species are similar in that they both are predicated of many things, but not of things differing in species. So here's the first difference. Genus is predicated of things differing in species. Species is predicated of things differing only in number. And what that means is it's just individuals. There are no species under species. Species doesn't divide into classes. Species just contains a number of different individuals. Do you get the idea of what Porphyry is doing? He's just saying these two, we're going to take genus and species. What do they have in common? They're both predicated of many things. What's different between them? Genus is predicated of many things differing in species. Remember that? Species is not predicated of many things differing in species. Species is predicated of many individual things, not of things differing in species. Species is predicated only of things that all have the same, or all of the same species. Okay? Genus differs from peculiarity in this. Genus differs from peculiarity. Peculiarity is predicated of one species alone. Peculiarity is predicated of one species. Genus is predicated of many species. That's how genus and peculiarity are different. How are they the same? They're both predicated of many things. But peculiarity is predicated of only one species. It's the peculiarity of that one species. Genus differs from difference and from accidents because though differences and accidents are predicated of many things, which differ in species, just like genus, they are not predicated in answer to a question, what a thing is. So genus is predicated in answer to the question, what is this? Difference is predicated in answer to the question, what kind of thing is this? And accident is also predicated in answer to the question, what kind of thing is this? Species is predicated plus and a plus there and a minus. But difference is predicated of many things. Accident is also predicated of many things. And if you look over here real quick, you'll see that we have the definition of genus. A genus is something that is predicated of many things differing in species, answering the question, what is this? You see that? Now, I don't think you understand all this stuff, and that's okay. That's okay. We're going to work through it patiently. It takes time. It takes time. But you understand it more than you did yesterday, and that's what matters. We're going to work every day to learn these things. The definition of genus is a thing that is predicated of many things differing in species, answering the question, what is this? How is genus like species? They're both predicated of many things, and they both answer the question, what is this? We're going to learn that in a bit. They both answer the question, what is this? They ask a question about the essence of a thing. Difference is like genus in that it is predicated of many things, and it is predicated of many things differing in species. But it answers a different question, and that's what makes difference different than genus. Genus and species answer the question, what is this? Difference answers the question, what kind of thing is this? Accident also is predicated of many species. Different species, I should say. But it answers the question, what kind of thing is this? That's how it's different from genus. Where are we at time-wise? Okay. Now, what's important here is not that you understand every detail of this. What's important right now, what's important is that you understand what Porphyry is doing. He's just showing us how each of these is similar and how each of these is different. If you were to take the definition of genus, which we learned, a genus is a thing which is predicated of many things differing in species, answering the question, what is this? And if you were to look at species and ask, is species a thing predicated of many things differing in species? In answer to the question, what is this? What would your answer be? What? Good, almost. That's good, right? What's different about species?
Predicated different in species.
That's right, okay? So a genus is predicated of things differing in species, but species is not. That's the difference between genus and species. And that's very important. That's what helps us to understand what species is. Next we go on to difference, and we take the definition of genus and we say, a genus is that which is predicated of many things differing in species in answer to the question, what is this? How does that compare to a difference? Is a difference a thing predicated of many things differing in species Answering the question, what is this? Is a difference like genus? Is a difference a thing predicated of many things? Yes or no? Yes. Is a difference predicated of things differing in species? Yes. Is a difference predicated in answer to the question, what is this? No. That's the difference. That's what distinguishes difference from genus. Okay? Then we go on to peculiarity and we ask the same question. Take the definition of genus. A genus is that which is predicated of many things, differing in species. Answering the question, what is this? Is peculiarity like a genus? Is it predicated of many things? Yes. Is it predicated of things differing in species? Peculiarity. No, that's the distinction. It's predicated of only one species. Does it answer the question, what is this? No. What question does it answer? What kind of thing is this? Okay, and lastly, accident. Is an accident predicated of many things? Just stick with me, we're almost done. Yes. Is an accident predicated of things differing in species? Yes. Is an accident predicated in answer to the question, what is this? No. That's the distinction. Okay? Do you see any problem with this chart we have that shows how things are alike and different? See any problem that might come up? Anything that might cause a problem? Remember, we're trying... That's an interesting face. You're like, I think I'd like to go to bed. When we look at this chart is supposed to help us understand how everything is similar and different. Does this chart show us that how everything is similar and different? If you give me an answer, I'm going to ask you to explain, so be careful. Does this chart show us how every single one of these are similar and different? Look at them. Does this chart show us how every single one of these is similar and different? The answer is no, it doesn't. There's a problem in what we see here. We have not accomplished our goal. We have not made it clear how all of these are alike and different. Based on these characteristics that we've listed, there are two that are exactly the same.
Different species.
What?
Different species.
Difference in species? There are two that are exactly the same.
Different species.
Difference and accident. Good, yeah. If we look at these, species is different from all the rest, right? That's helpful. We've established species and we see what actually makes species species. This is helpful. It's predicated only of things differing in number. That's good to know. That's how we can identify species. If we look at difference, we say, okay, it answers to the question, what kind of thing is this? That's how it differs from species and from genus. That's good to know. Follow me. Come on. Keep working through the finish line. That's good to know. Peculiarity is predicated of only one species. That's good to know. That will help us identify a peculiarity. Right? And when I look at accident, I say, accident is that which is predicated in answer to the question, what kind of thing is this? Uh-oh. How am I supposed to tell the difference between difference and accident? Their characteristics on this chart are exactly the same. That's the problem with this comparison. Okay? What this tells us is we have more work to do. We've got to get deeper into the comparison between difference and accident and figure out what makes them different from each other. Because we haven't figured that out. We've explained how they're different from genus, but we haven't explained yet how they differ from each other. So we've got something else to do. Okay? But other than that, this chart here is helpful, and that's what Porphyry just did for us on that page. Now maybe diagramming it like this makes it a little easier to follow than just reading it. But if you read through that page, I'm not sure that you took good enough notes to be able to read through that and look at your notes, but if you read through that page and look back at this video, you'll say, oh, okay, I understand what he's saying. I see what he's saying. Okay? As a teacher, that's my job. My job is to help you understand what the book is saying, but it's your job to actually study it and make it your own. I can't do that for you. But what I can do is just repeat and repeat and review and review and review. And that's why we have to have class every day. All right? Because as a teacher, I can do that work. I can force you to do that work and help you to study it. All right? So, we're about 50 minutes. 51 minutes. So I think we're going to wrap up there, because if we go any further, we're going to get into another topic. Yes, I see going on. I'm sorry, I just want to look real quick to see if I should stop here. Yes, we're going to stop there because we're going to start getting into species next. Okay, we're going to get into the definition of species. So we're going to stop there. So that's what? What did I say? The third class in Porphyry chapter 2. This is a packed chapter. This is one of the most important chapters in philosophy. And we just have to work through it little by little. But I hope that what we read through tonight, I hope you understand it. I hope that you'll make an effort when you get some time to reread the chapter and look back at your notes, look at the videos, and just keep working and working and working until you understand the book. If you do that work and understand this book, you're going to separate yourself into a class of students where there might be a couple in the whole world who understand these things. And that's not an exaggeration. I'm being serious. There might be 5 students on the planet who understand these things. Okay? And so I encourage you to do that work and distinguish yourselves, because this knowledge will prove very helpful to you, because it's going to allow you to study Aristotle and understand true philosophy. And there aren't many people in the world today who study true philosophy. There are hardly any schools outside the Classical Liberal Arts Academy that even try to teach it to students. And you can see why. It's hard, and it takes a lot of time. So anyway, let's wrap up this class now. Make a note in your notes of where we left off. We left off on, I'd say, page 21 in the book. So next class, just if I ask, remind me where we left off, and we'll pick up there and keep going. So take a minute, write a summary of what we've gone over in this class, and that's all for our third class in studying lesson 2 in Porphyry's introduction.